So gonna do some reaction to some stuff. So there's like this video called Ben Rand's Brickleberry. Yeah, like yeah, this one like yeah, like yeah, I've seen that video all the way back, but yeah, like he was like ranting on a satire called Brickleberry, and let's take a look at this. And by the way, don't hate on people that I'm reacting to.
Welcome back to Ben Rants. And when I was a kid, adults knew what not to let their kids watch. Well, folks, several months ago, Comedy Central introduced a new.
And you can see how controversial that video was. Many people didn't like him. Yeah, like there's many people who didn't like him for pretty good reasons. This, like, okay, let's just. Like some people, like it's kind of like the reactions are kind of like polarized. You know, some people think this show is bad, other people think this show is good, but you know.
Cartoon onto the world called Brickleberry. Ooh, this sounds interesting. Sure, it's Comedy Central, but hey, they have a decent track record when it comes to cartoons. So, maybe this cartoon will be good. Who's it created by? I've never heard of these people.
Hmm.
Well, okay, who's in it? David Herman. Okay, we're at a good start. I've never heard of her. Tom Kenny? Getting better. I've never heard of him. There's a co-creator I don't know. Who's the last guy? Daniel Tosh! Are you serious? Okay, for those of you unaware, I'm not a fan of Daniel Tosh.
Yeah, like seems like it's gonna be like it has an actor that you don't like. It seems to be doomed to fail, I guess, according to him. I know this video is like over 13 years old, but you know.
I just don't find him funny. I mean, come on! On his show Tosh.0, all he does is make fun of internet videos. Guess what, Tosh? Everybody does that!
Hmm. Everybody does that, yeah. So it seems like he was just lucky then.
You're not that special! Plus, he badmouthed bronies, so truck him. Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I just find it funny how he just uses the word truck instead of fuck. You know.
this cast is well balanced with talent and non-talent, so I have a feeling this show is going to suck. But I might as well give it a try before judging. Holy crap! I was wrong. This show doesn't suck. It sucks at sucking. It makes sucks feel like a compliment.
Oh my god. I mean, honestly, I have no hate for the guy, but this is just hard not to laugh at. After seeing this rant for like after so many years of not watching it, like It's just hard not to laugh at, you know, how absurd it is.
My god. My god. Oh, screw it. Let's get this video over with. The more I talk about this show, the more I eat the souls of children as they sleep.
Yeah, I just noticed like the MS Paint job or something, just filling in the eyes in the background, and I noticed that there wasn't really much effort in the background or something. Like, I don't know, it just looks weird.
Sorry. I think this show is starting to possess me with some kind of demon. All you need to know is, this show is about a ranger named Steve who works at a ranger station with all of his friends that you don't even need to know the names for because they're just being used to fill that typical adult cartoon formula. You've got the main character played by David Herman, who I greatly feel sorry for. You have the jerk boss played by Tom Kenny, who really needs a new agent. The stereotypical black guy, the sex symbol, the ugly woman, and the only reason the 5-year-olds that like this show are going to watch it. Okay, so the episode I watched was Saved by the Balls. Subtle name. Anyway, it starts out with the Rangers having trouble with stopping potheads, so they feel they can prevent potheads from doing drugs by smoking pot. Oh my god. It makes so much sense now.
Surely there must be more of a reason why they do this, right? I mean, I think that's supposed to be the joke, you know? I think it's some sort of joke that he doesn't get.
Now, all the answers to the world's problems have been answered by this show. Want to get rid of world hunger? Put down that nutty bar and stop eating, you fat slob. Want to put an end to tabloid news? Become famous and do stupid stuff, you mean.
Yeah, it doesn't seem... Yeah, that joke doesn't seem to work to the response of the 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 pot joke thing where the officers like succumb to like smoking pot themselves. I haven't watched Brickleberry, so I don't know, but it just seems he's kind of fabricating the kind of narrative of the show, so it seems like that, but seems like he's making it way worse than it really is, honestly.
Media suck up? Finally, want to end world violence? Well, take a gun and just blow your head off.
Yeah, this is what he looks like in real life. Kind of reminds me of Chris Chan. I'm not saying this to insult him, but I'm just saying it because he just does kind of look like Chris Chan. Much like how people call Cyrax a goblin because he looks like one. And I cannot lie, Cyrax does look like a goblin. But yeah, man, like a joke like that, like, is way too spicy for YouTube nowadays. Unfortunately, like, can't really get away with stuff on YouTube like you used to anymore, but
Oh, great. Now I need another Ben T. Looney. Where am I? I ran on Brickleberry. Start criticizing. Will you give me a raise? Sure. Alright, sucker. What was that? Nothing. So, the Rangers smoke drugs. Okay, folks, let me be blunt here. Doing drugs isn't funny. I hate it when my intelligence is insulted by comedy shows and movies that
So seriously, they're just as bad as far as there's not joke. Wait, there's not joke. What the? That seems like a grammar error right there. It's just characters doing a verb. What's not funny about that, man? Like, I remember Family Guy has a lot of fart jokes and stuff like that, and people doing dumb stuff. I mean, a lot of it can be pretty funny. And from what I'm looking at, this whole Brickleberry officers doing pot, I have a feeling it's gonna be pretty funny. I have a feeling that if I watch this show, I was thinking like I was thinking it's gonna be pretty funny actually, you know. But you know,
I think I should laugh at characters doing drugs. Well, they're doing it all wrong. Drugs can be used to make the characters make jackasses out of themselves. That's funny. Drugs can be used to make characters hallucinate and lead to a WTT moment. That's funny, but mostly creative. Finally, people who do drugs can be made fun of by sober people, and that's funny. However, characters just standing there and smoking weed, I just don't get it. There's no joke in that.
I think he misses the point of the whole joke about them succumbing, I don't know, them getting into like weed because they're tempted to do it. I think I think he misses the point of the joke.
Why are people laughing at that? What are people going to laugh at next? Oh my god! That fox is walking! The fox is putting one foot forward! Who's ever seen a fox do that? Now I think.
Uh, I do not. I do not get it. I do not get it. Okay, what makes this whole weed joke different from the whole fox walking thing is the fact that officers were tempted to do weed and then they just, you know, eventually they just yeah, you know what I'm saying, you know. But the fox walking, it just makes no sense to me. This this parody criticism makes no sense to me, honestly.
Think about it. You have to be on drugs to think people being on drugs is funny. So anyway, in the midst of waste animation, Malloy, played by a very unfunny Daniel Tosh, is being a jerk to everybody and is humping random objects. This show is making it easy for me to hate this character. The fact that he's voiced by Daniel Tosh is enough for me to wish for bad things to happen to him. The Rangers feel that Malloy's raging is due to the fact he is overloaded with testosterone, so he gets neutered. Huh.
I think we're getting to the point of that quote that Ben T. Looney is probably one of the most quotable Ben T. Looney parts out there. You know what I mean. Like it's coming soon.
Well, that wasn't funny, but at least something bad happened to Daniel Tosh. Malloy. Meanwhile, Steve and the black guy who they call Denzel go undercover to stop potheads. This episode then takes time to single out Denzel to help them with the marijuana case. It's funny because all black people smoke weed?
Black people smoke weed? Isn't it like some sort of stereotype joke? I mean, we always had like stereotype jokes before, you know? It's nothing new, you know? Like, we always have satire, like, I remember watching like Murdoch, you know, like, I know it's like I know it's like some sort of alt-right cartoon, but it seems like even then when I watched that show, I have laughed at many of the jokes before, you know? Not saying that I agree with the alt-right, but I get their point. But, you know, always do like stereotype jokes. Rucka Rucka Alley is famous for that. You know? Comedy is meant to like mock at a certain degree, you know? I know some people debate when comedy goes too far and stuff like that, but again, like stereotype jokes always existed in comedy, you know? And it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, you know? Sometimes people can be like very edgy with their comedy. Like, I remember people like using a character Mac Tonight and turning it into Moon Man and having the Moon Man say like those nasty things. You know, when I first saw it, I initially thought it was like satire and people shit posting, but then the alt right seems to just use the Moon Man character more and more and more to the point where it's just kind of sad, you know? But I think the initial I don't know, it's like but you know, like we always had stereotypical jokes, many of them better than others, but you know, it's not really something to be offended about, especially in a comedy show, you know? Of course you're gonna find stereotypical jokes in there.
Okay, this is another thing that a lot of adult shows do that I don't like. They
You
use
don't like.
stereotypes to make cheap jokes. Not only are they not funny, but these are the same jokes that we've heard before in every other adult show.
How, like, you can innovate on the stereotypical jokes. You know that, right? Especially like you can make it like, especially like if it's if relevancy is the topic, you can make it like pretty. You can actually like what's sorry, I just get jumbled in words. Yes, I'm criticizing this rant, but you know it's constructive criticism. Like I said before, don't harass the guy or anything like that. It's just I'm giving him constructive criticism. I know this video is like 13 years old, but I don't know if his opinions changed by that. But I've seen his Martin Scorsese rant, and like I understand that he likes superhero movies over dramas and stuff like that. And I mean that's fine, but you know I'm the kind of guy that absolutely loved Goodfellas and Taxi Driver. And basically, I liked every Martin Scorsese film I watched, anyways. So,
Cut it the truck out! I don't know how it's possible for anybody who likes these kinds of shows to keep laughing at the same jokes over and over again. That's another thing. If you're a comedy writer, you're dead if you use stereotypes for jokes. Why? Because they're stereotypes!
again, again, like if the stereotype jokes, like especially if they're relevant to the current day themes, you know, of course, like it's gonna be it depends on how you make the stereotype jokes, but again, it doesn't mean it's doomed to failure, you know? Like, we always made like stereotype jokes. Like, that's kind of the point of comedy, isn't it? Like, Monty Python, when they made the French stereotype jokes, you know? And all that other stuff. Remember Ugandan Knuckles? Like, how they satirized, you know, the whole Ugandan stereotype, but rather it's actually inspired by the Who Killed Captain Alex. I think that was the whole point, is that Ugandan Knuckles was like a tribute to the whole Who Killed Captain Alex film things, you know. Sorry, it's just I really get jumbled in words. It's unscripted. Sometimes I just jumble up and mess up with my words. I'm sorry. I know, like, Who Killed Captain Alex is a film, and I've seen it before. I do have the two movie collection of that one and the other film that I'm trying to remember. But I have seen it, you know?
You can make fun of stereotypes, but just writing in stereotypes that we hear every day isn't comedy.
Is in comedy, like again, like Monty Python and the Holy Grail has like characters written as stereotype characters, and there's a good reason for it, because it just basically satirizes the the Middle Ages of Europe, and you know, same with A Life of Brian, where they like stereotype the followers of the Messiah, and it's just, and they done it pretty well. He's just overlooking the characters based on stereotypes done pretty well. So yeah, I don't have a problem with this black character being written as a stereotype. All right, I don't. It doesn't mean I'm racist. I'm not. I don't support any real racism whatsoever. But jokes are, you know, jokes. You know, so long as you don't go like too far with the jokes. And I don't know when there really is a silver lining between this. Like I think the jokes from the Chud websites, I think, are just them being edgy and stupid for the most part, and it's just not funny when they're just being like overly edgy and stupid, because you know we know what they truly are. But when it's from a writer who is known for doing like more moderated stuff, and then they have a shock joke out of the blue, is like, that would be like an interesting thing, but yeah, I know I may sound dumb, but I may not come to a logical sense. But I'm just speaking out my opinions on the whole his response to this show. I know what I say may not make sense, but say what you will.
It's just you making idiots out of yourselves for believing such bullspit. God! Anyway, Stevens Denzel claimed to work for the mob, so they're given the job to grow marijuana plants. However, the marijuana isn't growing fast enough. Steve then thinks back to what sex symbol said about Malloy's testosterone, so he grabs Malloy's testicles and squirts his juice.
Like, all right, before we get to the famous Ben the Looney quote, like, I think he like what am I trying to say here? Like, he didn't even point out the whole thing that marijuana taking too long to grow was supposed to be the joke of them being impatient. You know? like yeah, I've planted flowers before, and I've seen them grow, but it doesn't start at day one. It takes a little bit to sprout, and then it takes a little bit to bloom. But like cannabis, it's completely legal here in Canada now, and I've seen many different cannabis shops, and I've used cannabis before, and yeah, I use it as much as I use alcohol. I have it for like once a month to once every few months, basically. So, all right, now let's get to the fucking reaction.
Uses all over the field of marijuana to make them grow. Nah, I'm just kidding. This show isn't that stupid to do that.
Isn't that stupid to do that? Like, it's not that stupid to do that. Like, really? Like, what am I trying to say here? Like, I think that's supposed to be part of the joke of them being like really stupid and doing stupid stuff because they're impatient. Like, I think that's the point. Like gross out humor. Some people take it way too seriously because they have weak stomachs. Now, like I hurl at the sight and even thought of gack from my cats and the shit from my cats, but I don't have a weak stomach over gross out stuff like what's in Brickleberry or King Star King or like what's that? What's it called? Mr. Pickles? Is that what it's called? Sorry if I forgot. If I forgot the show name, I apologize. But I think that's what it's. I like the one with the evil dog. Like yeah, like. But let's just let's just continue on.
Oh, how I wish I could say that previous sentence and not be lying. Yes, I'm not kidding. That's exactly what Steve does. Okay, I'm convinced. The reason this show was made is for the writers to tell jokes that they tried to tell their friends in college, but nobody laughed at them. For good reason. They're not funny!
They're not funny. They're not funny. So you're gonna think that. Okay, Monty Python meaning of life. There was this overly obese man with a very 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 weird anatomy. hmm And he was like doing a lot of gluttony at the restaurant, and then like he was puking everywhere, and eventually he became so fat that his body basically fucking overinflated and popped. Like is this really something to be offended about, or because I find that scene very interesting. Like, but like, what am I trying to say here? Fuck. Jokes with bodily fluids, like he thinks that can't be funny. I disagree. There's ways to make it funny.
When did balls become so funny? I just don't get it. They're balls.
Why do balls become so funny? Because it's unusual for something to have um like wild animals have testicles too, you know? Wild animals have testicles as well, you know? Have you not known that? Many wild animals do.
That's all they are. Grow up, people. Of course, I know these aren't the kind of balls you
Grow up. Yeah, I remember many people calling this person a man-child. And many of them have compared him to Chris Chan.
people somehow find funny. But still, they're body parts. There's nothing funny about body parts. Here's basically what you're making yourself look like. Look, guys! An arm! He has arms! So,
Yeah, the comparison makes absolutely no sense because, like, unless those arms are, like, severely deformed or something like that, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, what makes body parts funny is the fact that, well, like, balls and, like, penises, huge penises, what makes them really funny is the fact that it's unusual, and of course it's gonna be funny.
that gross out method somehow works because, you know, bears and plants share the same hormones. No, they don't. With this, Steve has made a member of the cartel. Stuff I can't remember because this show is hard to pay attention to because it made me want to upchuck my kidneys happens, and eventually, Steve's boss is kidnapped by the mafia, and Steve is ordered to
Mm.
kill him. Steve doesn't go along with it, and he's revealed to be a ranger. A shootout ensues and causes Malloy's jewels to break out of the jar and bounce around the lair. Why do you keep showing me Malloy's ding-dongs? I don't like looking at bear marbles.
Yeah. If you don't like looking at it, you don't need to watch the show. I mean, like, one cannot dictate how the show should be like.
And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who thinks that. Anyway, Denzel comes and saves the day. In the hospital, Steve's boss is treated for his wounds, but he notices his oranges are missing. Guess where they are? The camera then pans to Malloy, who has a human sack hanging from him. Oh, God! Ew! Really? Why? Why did you have to show that? That's trucking! Oh my God! Okay. Anyone?
Yeah, that's the famous quote from him. Dude, I've seen way, 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 way worse. I mean, I've seen way fucking worse. Like, there was this, there were like some things that I watched for the sake of reacting to. Like, there was this hentai known as Bondage Game. Now, I'm not a fan of that kind of OVA. I mean, it's not something that turns me on or anything like that. It's just character design's not that good, but I do notice that sometimes there was this girl with 3 dicks. Some girls have their dicks grafted onto them. One of the girls basically became have their tube connected to her mouth and basically forced to eat the feces of other people, you know? Yeah, like, But what else is there? Borat 2. Now that one's funny. Borat's subsequent movie film where the couch has like testicles and stuff. I think that's what it is. Yeah, that was pretty funny. But like there's like some people say like, Ben, you're unbelievably brave. Somebody give you this guy a medal for standing an episode. I was lucky to make it past the opening credits. Uh, I mean, it's fine if you don't like the show. Some people say it's painfully unfunny, but I don't know. It's like and then yeah, like Ben the Looney does rants like this, and then like a few years later he does those weird cartoon porn kinds of stuff. None of that turns me on whatsoever. It's just poorly drawn characters for the most part. I mean, look, I have no hate for Ben the Looney, okay? But a lot of his points are just really absurd. It's just clear that he doesn't really make good points, and a lot of it's just nitpicking. Some people say this is why I stopped watching TV altogether and went to video games and you. Yeah, I remember talking with a friend of him pointing out that Mama Made Me Sheriff had ugly looking characters. And yeah, like I can agree that they look ugly, but I think that's the point. I think that's the point of certain comedies is to have ugly looking characters. I think that's the point. It really fits well with what they're trying to convey. Like I've seen way fucking worse. Like there was this hentai known as Pigeon Blood. There was this there was this character with like a huge Frankenstein like dick, and as she ejaculates, there's like this huge pile of semen on the ceiling. And there was this girl named Elsa Maria, and she basically has two dicks, and she has a fucking pussy for a mouth. Like that is fucking messed up. I mean, like you think it can't get any worse? I think I'm kind of done with this, but I'm not done with the live stream. But Ben T. Looney rants on Comedy Central's newest tragedy of a cartoon, Brickleberry. Now, I haven't seen the show, so I can't tell if it's good or bad. He also ranted on Sanjay and Craig, and he said it was like the animation equivalent of the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Now, I've seen a few episodes of Sanjay and Craig, and it doesn't look that bad. I mean, just because it's weird doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. Yeah, I have seen his artwork, and I'm not a fan of his artwork. But, you know, it's not like, doesn't make him the reincarnation of Satan or anything like that. Yeah, like, you know, it's hard to find good content to react to because, let's be real here, someone's saying a bunch of, finding someone to say a bunch of stupid stuff and just, you know, the top results are just basically mainstream media posts and other stuff like that. And honestly, just want to find something to react to, you know? That's kind of interesting, you know? And then there's a lot of stuff that are just slop. And, you know, reacting to it is just kind of degrades the quality of the video. Like, for example, Fruit Love Island. You know, there's just nothing. There's just, it's just so vacuous and uh, bland and complete slop that's just nothing. It's not worth reacting to. It's not worth anything. Well, you know, this video right here has something. This video right here does have something, you know? Cool Cat Funhouse, I guess. Dirty Dog threatens to shoot up Cool Cat's school. Yeah. Oh, wow. Derek Savage doesn't seem to. I don't know, he just seems like worse off than he was before. Like, he looks like he's kind of deteriorating. You know, he just does. That's. Sarek struggles to explain his flat Earth conspiracy. Like, yeah, like. Yeah. This one's fucking gold. Sarek's my take on the Earth being. Oh, like they. I don't know. Is this some sort of intentional typo on the re-upload?
What up, y'all? It's your boy Chance. And I'm here today to do my take on the Earth is flat deal, which I don't believe that at all. But I don't believe that it is flat.
Yeah, it's interesting how, like, yeah, there's many people who do believe that the Earth is flat. There is many people out there now. I don't treat flat Earth believers like vermin or subhuman or anything like that, but believing the Earth is flat, it seems very unscientific, and it's like the flat Earth thing to me just seems very untrue. Now, admittedly, I used to think the Earth was flat at one point because I was just so gullible to conspiracy theories. I think a lot of people are. So, like, props to him for not succumbing to that conspiracy theory, I guess. But, you know, I'm just really certain, like, reevaluating my life and stuff like that, I'm really certain the Earth is a ball. Like, I am very, 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 very certain the Earth is a ball. And that flat Earth, like, no matter how much I try to make logical sense, it just doesn't. And then I just abandon the flat Earth thing in general. So yeah, I have become pretty dumb before. I mean, I don't. Flat Earth is just a really dumb belief. I mean, it just is. I mean, but you know, I'm not gonna treat people like subhuman for believing that. Okay? Because you know, over time, I eventually like give people some form of dignity. You know?
But this whole event is really getting annoying. Now, I will admit there were a couple, theories that made sense to a certain extent. But this is just my take on it and my view on it. You guys can believe whatever you want, but I'm just telling you from my experience, not just as a human being, but as a person of military background. I had to deal with stuff like this a little bit of the times through my dad being military, because he dealt with 82nd Airborne Division. He was Staff Sergeant, 82nd Airborne, so he had to deal with a lot of stuff to deal with air and space.
Air and space.
And I can tell you firsthand right off the bat that the Earth is not flat.
Of course.
And if you think about it, if the Earth was flat, don't you think that we would all be flat? Or like
flat? Like, what do you mean by flat? We'd be short and stout? Or we'd be infinitely short and stout where, like, we are just, like, less than a millimeter tall, less than a micrometer tall? Like, we'd be as tall as a plank length? And there would be, like, no variation in elevation in topography or something?
looking like 2D characters
Or we become cartoons?
some shit.
That is a lot less logical than the flat Earth. That is just a lot less logical. Like, that makes no sense.
Now, we'll admit though, my buddy the Brick, or Brick the Ripper, or Ripper the Brick, however the fuck you say his damn YouTube name.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he really respected. Doesn't really respect him that well. If he's just. By the way, he butchered his name and not give a crap.
So, my apologies, dude, if I'm saying your name.
Okay, never mind. I spoke too soon. But whenever he said where the fuck, it's kind of like made me think that.
But, like, he did have a really good theory about the conveyor belt theory as far as, air travel. And I do like that theory. If you really think about it, we do indeed get dragged around by the wind going around the earth whenever we're in flight.
Now the wind going around the earth is also caused by the rotation of the earth as well, you know? The faster the earth rotates, the more wind is going to happen. Alright? Like, I've heard, like, prehistoric times, the earth seemed to be much windier because the earth's spin was much faster. You know?
like a conveyor belt. That makes sense. It does make sense.
Okay, some flat Earth theories may make sense eventually until you really get down to the grand scheme of things where it just all falls apart. And just basically the whole ball Earth thing just keeps its foundation.
But, but, if you go into outer space and you go to like a space station or something of that nature, and you look down at the Earth, it is indeed round.
Yep.
And and you're right about one thing, though, dude. Oh, sorry, that guy's accidentally hit the table that this is sitting on. But what was that saying? Oh yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. Now, you would be correct if the Earth did not have its ozone layer. Yes, we would all be cooked alive, or we would all freeze to death.
From what I'm aware, like from science documentaries and stuff like that, if the Earth has a damaged ozone layer, we would be cooked alive. We would have serious sunburns, and eventually, like, our hair would stop growing, and our digestive system would just stop. You know, because we're made out of many different microorganisms. And those microorganisms work in tandem to help like digest the food we that we basically eat. So if those are killed off, what like if there's nothing to digest, you know, and break it all down, it's just basically like it's just stuck there. Like from what I've heard, I think like during the Devonian and Carboniferous period, like dead trees and dead leaves basically became coal because there's like hardly like any like organisms out there that just breaks down the tree matter. There weren't really any of those. So the wildfires just basically turn them. I think other stuff too, like trees break down during the Carboniferous rainforest collapse, and basically like I know when you burn like wood, it becomes charred, and eventually it becomes like charcoal. But given enough period of time, the wood eventually becomes coal. And yeah, I think the coal deposits were largely because of the Carboniferous rainforest collapse and stuff. Like, I think that's when we really started seeing coal. But, it's just.
Due to the vacuum of space. But also, you gotta take into account
It be, like, in the vacuum of space.
this as well. If we didn't have the ozone layer, we would all pretty much be floating in space due to the lack of gravity.
It's. That just. That is just completely wrong. The reason the Earth has gravity is because it has mass. Okay? With mass, like the reason why the moon orbits around the Earth isn't because of the ozone layer. It's because Earth has more mass than the moon. You know, but the moon has enough speed to just basically orbit around the Earth. You know, and the ozone layer is not big enough to encapsulate the moon. We don't need the ozone layer for gravity. The moon doesn't have an ozone layer, but it has gravity, you know? I mean, it has weaker gravity, but still. It doesn't have an ozone layer. So, that's just. What Sarek said on that point is just completely wrong.
And so, like, let's say you have a missile silo on one side of the Earth and you want to launch it. You're not going to launch it. Yeah, you're going to launch it straight up, but it's not going to go like this. It's going to go up and then it's going to go around like this to its destination. It's going to go up and then curve around at its peak when it gets to the right area to drop down onto its target.
Mm.
So yeah, your conveyor belt theory, it is partly right. I will give you that, and it does make sense for like air travel, missile attacks, that type of deal. That does make sense. But for all of you out there saying that the Earth is flat, where the fuck are you getting this shit? Like,
Oh yeah, people they're like when like this whole thing about the geocentric model being disproven, you know. There's just some people that just wouldn't let this go, and then there's a bunch of trolls that would just want to start shit, and then there's people who are gullible enough to just believe that shit, and then eventually, like, they found it, it's like, oh, this is the truth! This is the truth! They think they're being edgy because they think this is the truth, and then they're closed minded as to what science brings. So, yeah, there's many reasons why people get this whole flat earth absurd bullshit. You know? I have I don't have any hate against the people who believe the earth is flat or even try to spread the lie that the earth is flat. Okay? Like I have nothing against flat earth Dave or Eric Dubay except for a bit of constructive criticism there and there. Cause, you know, but you know, it's just their narrative is, in my opinion, is just wrong. It's just wrong, you know. But I just don't go out and treat them like subhuman because of their wrong narrative, you know. I just after this whole thing of being told to disrespect someone to feel affinity with my peers and stuff like that, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Nobody's above scrutiny here. Nobody. But I feel like I'm obliged to at least give people some form of dignity and understand what they're trying to convey, even if it sounds bullshit. You know, that nuance that I have, like that I seriously lacked back then. Now it now with Eric Dubay, well, I see him more as like a stop clock. You know, a stop clock is right twice a day, and you know, like when it comes to his views on the United States and how it's a corporate country, I just really agreed with him on that. You know, so yeah, some people can be really wrong, but then there's some thing about them that you'll find that you're surprised that you would actually agree with.
yeah, Christopher Columbus thought the Earth was flat.
Did,
There's a lot of people that thought the Earth was flat
did you
until
really think
somebody
that?
finally said, "Hey, I'm gonna launch some guys into space, take them to the moon, and we're gonna see how everything goes." We hadn't been on the moon. Turned out great. They looked back at the Earth, and they did, in fact, confirm that the Earth was round.
Yep.
So, yes, people, on the contrary to what you guys might believe, yes, the Earth is very round, like a ball. So, why don't we just put this fucking shit to rest and be done with it? Like, I am seriously tired of.
Yeah, unfortunately, people are not going to stop believing that the earth is flat. I mean, they're just going to continue to keep on grifting and other stuff like that. And other, like, the, a lot of people just want to hold on to the narrative that the earth is flat. Like they want to do, hold on to, like, Holocaust denial narrative and stuff like that. You know? It's just, like, they just don't like the idea that they're wrong, you know? Or they just adhere to some sort of ideology where it's required to believe such a thing, you know? They just won't let this go, or they just, you know, won't admit that they're wrong, or that they think that they really think that they're just, because of some bad actors, that they think that science is something that's not worth being, like, loyal to. Like, I remember with COVID, many people were forced to wear a mask or take the vaccine, and because of that, they've like many people just don't like the idea of being forced to take a vaccine or wear a mask, you know. So what they do is they just rebel against anything that they stand for, including science. And it could also be the reason why many people have become flat earthers and stuff like that. I mean, I used to think that the earth was flat at one point. I used to think that because, my lack of critical thinking skills back then had me to believe all this absurd stuff, you know? It was like, I was challenged, but I was like considering, like, I've assumed that what they may be saying is right. I was like, oh wait, the Earth really is flat, but when it really comes down to this, no, the Earth is not flat. But if anyone wants to argue different points about me with the Earth being flat, that's fine. If you want to debate me that the Earth is flat, that's fine. You know, I'd I'd respect it more if you'd be rational in the argument rather than saying, "Oh fuck you, you don't believe the Earth is flat," and stuff like that. But
This shit getting thrown around and constantly hearing about it. It's like that's all I ever see anymore. It's getting old. But I just spoke my 2 cents on it. Whether you agree or disagree, don't really matter. But if you do agree, that's great. If you don't agree, hey, that's your opinion. I respect it. But with that being said, y'all, I am gonna hop off here and get ready to play some COD Modern Warfare Reflex multiplayer for you guys. So with that being said, y'all, much love. Catch y'all in a bit.
wow, that's weird. The side videos didn't work. Yep, that's right, Cyrax. Yeah, this guy. yeah, like Cyrex is a terrible, terrible, terrible person, you know? I mean, it's not like I have such contempt for Cyrex. I do give him a bit of dignity and stuff like that, but I can't lie, he is a terrible person. Someone made a point saying his brain is flat. Yeah, we didn't need the moon landings to prove the Earth was indeed round. There's many other ways to prove it. Like, for example, some stars rise and set on certain places where others, or in other places, they either don't rise or are circumpolar. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think you missed the point where I mean, I think you missed the video, the part of the live stream where I've commentated on Ben Deluni's rant on Brickleberry. But yeah, Sarix gets caught with his pants down. Interesting. There's also Sarix versus Music Biz Marty full series. Sarix show. Are they using AI slop for that? Yeah, he has a status of 43, which means he's a disturbed individual. You know, feel like I've streamed enough today because I really can't find stuff to react to. I know it's just harder to find it. I don't think it's not there. I think it's just harder to find because the search has gone a whole lot worse with the algorithm doing its own favoritism. That's why I don't get much views and stuff like that. So yeah, like this whole favoritism in the algorithm really needs to stop. Like it is clear rigging of the system, you know.